You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
Good morning, everyone. So today we have a Bernadette sandwich. So here's my dear friend Bernadette Summers and I going to have a little conversation about the impact of the budget. Everyone's been talking about reeling, I think, because it's been quite a shock. And we just thought we would have a cup of tea or coffee and really talk about the practical implications of it. Now, I'm going to let Bernadette introduce herself and what she does, because she tells the story better than I do. So welcome, Bernadette.
Thank you, Bernadette. It's funny, I don't necessarily talk to myself. Anyway, I'm a real estate agent. I've been in the industry for 18 years. I actually have my own agency now, Eastern Beaches Property, and we concentrate on the eastern suburbs, but do the whole of Sydney. The budget has been deafening. Everyone has a different opinion. When you're on social media, everyone's got different views on what's happened. And I think it's really important that you don't panic. Nothing's been set in legislation, hasn't passed the Senate yet. So we don't actually know what the final outcome will be. And so it's really important that we all just calm down a little bit and move forward. Just pivot a little bit. The market has really dipped in Sydney, and Sydney also has different pockets of the market within Sydney. So depending on where you're living, you'll see a decline, and the percentage of the decline in the market will make a big difference to where you're living. But that's uncertainty, and people don't like that. Buyers in particular don't like that. So I do feel a little bit sorry for the sellers that have come on just recently. They will have seen a dip in the market, and I have seen a lot of properties withdraw from the market. But that will change again. This is a period, I guess, of change at the moment, which no one likes. But we will get back to programming as normal soon.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Everyone tends to, I think, go into shock with, the last time we saw a scenario like this was the Banking Royal Commission.
COVID.
COVID. And there were, definitely in COVID, there were reports that house prices were going to drop 40%, and
they had the opposite.
Yeah. And so, the other day I saw, I think it was a guy from SQM saying that prices were going to drop in Sydney 10%. They may well do, but, I think you just, what we have to do is just move with
we do.
Changes.
Yeah. The markets have dropped right now. Mm-hmm. It's been really a horrible time, basically. I mean, if you go back to the February, March, we went into a war, and then we've had 3 rate rises, which is horrible. We've had Easter as well, which always historically Easter is a quiet time in real estate. But it's been one thing after another. And now, of course, we've got the budget. So I think everyone's a little bit fatigued as well from what's happened. Yeah. But that will change. That will change.
And I don't know whether, I always think, it's a bit like, when you've got, a boat in the bath, rubber duck in the bath, and it gets pushed under and then it pops up and it goes it sort of waves around and then it settles out. I feel that when we've had a situation like this, that's what's happened. It's gone berserk for a few months. And interesting, as you were saying that, I realised, so our class project has been really stalled by a strata that has been what's obstructive in the approval process. And technically, we should have gone to market last month. And we haven't started. And in some ways, I'm actually quite pleased that we didn't, because now we've got a bit of time for the market to settle out before we do go to market, because otherwise we would have been on the market at that worst time.
Yeah, and what do they say? Some gifts come badly wrapped.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
And I think maybe that's what's happened with your property.
Yeah. So anyhow, let's talk about some specifics. Now, at the beginning, I should have reinforced the fact that this is not financial advice. you absolutely need to consult your accountant, financial planner,
Yep.
or broker, whoever's the most relevant person, in order to get advice on how to manage this situation. We're just going to talk about how it impacts us and our clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the first thing which we were just talking about is how grateful we are that the principal place of residence was not targeted with changes.
Thank goodness. I think there would have been a mass uprising if there had been.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And I don't think people, I mean, the biggest creation of wealth is in the family home. And a lot of people don't realise that there is actually a 6-year rule associated with your properties, which means that you can move out of your principal family home and rent it for 6 years. And of course, you've got the property now, so it's been grandfathered, so you get all those benefits. If you move in back into the property within 6 years, then that all starts again. So you don't lose your capital gains tax, anything like that, and you have that wealth of the rental. So thankfully they didn't touch that either. And that's something a lot of people don't know. So not necessarily selling, you can always rent your property out.
And I think I'm definitely in your school of thought around the family home being the centrepiece of anyone's assets. And I just get really annoyed with the property bros who, rant about how it's not an asset because it doesn't produce an income. But the reality is, even the much maligned baby boomers, most of their wealth has come from
property.
The home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because, while we all aspire to have big portfolios, we're not all cut out to be landlords. And, for most people, statistically, most Australians don't. And so, but I think something that we do, and I ran a workshop on this during the week, is utilising some space, some underutilised space for what we call a money tree or a short-term rental. So you've just seen mine downstairs. And I personally think that is an insanely good strategy because while it does impact your capital gains tax exemption to the extent of the area and the time that is listed, I've certainly worked it out for myself, and the benefits far outweigh that bit of tax I would pay on that section if we ever sold. We don't plan to sell, but if we ever did, I think you do need to, as I said, make sure that you work with your advisors to understand the implications of any actions you take.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a strategy in place, and you may have to change the strategy that you've been using in the past because of these changes that have come in or coming in. As we said, they haven't been legislated yet, so we don't know the final outcome. But it is very important that you do talk to your financial advisor, accountant, and if you do have a spare room or, like you said, a place where you can have an Airbnb, then that extra income absolutely is going to offset, some of these tax changes as well. I mean, obviously there's implications of that income as well, and that's why you have to have a pretty strong strategy.
Yeah. Okay, so I know this is not high on your list of priorities, but we should talk about flipping. Because that is something that most renovators love to do. Yeah. And while the changes for flippers is minimal, it's about 5%, 4 or 5%, I think when you think about it in the scheme of things, so most people who are buying, renovating and selling on a regular basis do that in a company structure. And what that enables them to do is to, one, pay company tax rather than personal tax, because if you whack 100 grand onto your income, you're going to lose 47 cents of it. So up until recently, that was 26 cents, and it's now gone up to a minimum of 30 cents that you pay in tax. But the good thing about doing it in a company is you can actually keep the money in the company and for a time when your income isn't so high. But then, of course, once your income gets over 75,000, you're also paying GST as well. So you're looking at another 10% regardless of whether you make profit or not. So it starts to add up.
You do have to be careful, and that's why I spoke about strategy. You really got to, before you get into, I guess, the whole flipping, it's really important that you have a plan. And I saw on your website, actually, you've got a little feasibility app, which I think is a great tool. And before you start putting any money in anywhere, you've got to do your figures. We all need to know our numbers, right? I think that's fabulous.
It's based on a typical, what we call cosmetic plus renovation, that runs over 6 months. Like, you wouldn't use it for your feasibility. You've got to have actual numbers for your feasibility. But for just figuring out whether a deal has legs or not, it's great. It's called the 5-minute Feeso if you want to check it out.
I think it's fabulous. I think it's great. I'm actually going to download it on my phone.
Awesome.
But I did like the when I was reading through it, and it said, what you pay for the property, and negotiate hard was next to it. I did like that. As a real estate agent, I thought, okay, good.
Well, you would know this, but the majority of newbie renovators and newbie homeowners pay too much for their property.
Yeah.
They don't know. Basically, my theory is they don't know how cheeky to be.
Well, that's it. I mean, you've been around a bit longer than and I don't want to say, but most people, but people getting into the market, there are different ways, know, of getting a discounted price. Having said that, I'm working for the seller at the same time as well. So you've got to balance that. And I'm very lucky that I'm very transparent in my deals. So I have good relationships with buyers and sellers, and always find an outcome that's great for both. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you've got to make sure everyone's happy in the deal. It's not an easy transaction, and not everyone's happy with the outcome, but, especially auctions.
Yeah.
But I love auctions because I think that's the most transparent way.
It is.
And sometimes we'll do a tender. I mean, I'm sure everyone's had this as well, where they say,
the auction before the auction.
The auction before the auction. But it's not transparent.
No.
So you may go up another $500 or $1,000 or $10,000, and that may be the difference of you winning or losing a property. So, that's something to think about. Yeah.
I must admit, we bought our first home in Sydney that way, and the agent said to me, we're taking final offers 5 o'clock, and I said to him, I really cannot stretch, and I wanted the house desperately.
Yeah.
And he said to me, so I went in at 5 o'clock with my offer, and he told me what the highest offer was.
Oh, right. You should have done that. But
no.
Let's not talk about things that real estate agents do, all right? But
there's good real estate agents and bad ones.
Yeah, and interesting now, listings in Sydney are down.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of real estate agents leaving the industry as well, which is when we get to a softer or a difficult market, you find that that's what happens. And that's interesting because I've seen that happen now over 18 years in the industry. A lot of people think real estates are very easy. You come in, you put a signboard up and it's very easy to sell a property. It's not at all. And it's longevity, you're in here for a long time, not a short time. So, that's if you want a career in the industry. So it depends on how you run your business, but that's how I've always run my business. Yeah.
From what I've seen, the strength of a real estate agent is in their relationship building.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's the people you have around you. It's the service you deliver.
Yeah.
Luckily, right back from day one in real estate, the people that I sold for back then, I still talk to today, and they still refer business to me. And now I'm doing property management as well.
Yeah.
And people that I've sold for are now my landlords. So I'm very lucky.
Wow. That's a tough gig, property management.
It is a tough gig. It's a thankless job. But again, because I'm a smaller company, I talk to both the landlord and the tenant. So again, it's juggling that relationship.
Yeah.
And if something happens in the property, you've got to get onto it straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Communication's key. Well, communication's key to everything, as we know. But particularly in property, buying, selling or renting, or managing, you've got to be on the phone and you've got to be accessible all the time.
So I agree, and it's not very well paid, so I really take my hat off to you.
Yeah, it's long hours, but I really like it. It wasn't something that I was going to do when I started the business, but my clients asked me to do it, and so I'm very lucky now. It's been built up through referrals. I haven't done any advertising. So I'm very lucky that that's happened.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so let's just, while we're on the subject of property management and so on, What's your impression in your domain of the housing shortage?
Well, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because with these changes coming in some form, that will affect whether people sell their investments. A lot of people now, because they've been grandfathered, will hang on to them.
Yeah.
In regard to the housing shortage, we do need more housing. There's more people coming into the country. That's undoubtedly that's happening. There is a lot of properties out sort of southern eastern suburbs that are now building duplexes, which you can not grandfather that, but you can get the capital gains tax on that, and offset that on your tax as well. So that's always a good thing. In regard to whether rents will go up, at this stage, I haven't seen any of my landlords talk about putting rents up. It will probably happen, but it happens anyway. Because mortgages go up. So regardless of what's happened in regard to the budget, people still change. People's situations change. I think people will see less properties coming onto the market because people will hold on. And why wouldn't you?
So that may even out the market a bit too. Because supply's always a bit of a driver, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we did see a real rush at the beginning of the year, which always happens through January, February, and then we get a bit quieter as we come into Easter. And historically, that's exactly what happened. We weren't expecting a war.
No.
And we weren't expecting, 3 rate rises, and we weren't expecting that budget. So there's, pile on pile on pile on of what's happened, and certainly that's had a reflection on the market.
So I was looking at the numbers, and at the moment I think the target for this year is 325,000 people, and we are building, we're completing 175,000 homes per year. And so the statistics are that a home will accommodate 2.4 people. So I think that we are pretty close in terms of what we're creating. I don't know. I'm a bit concerned we're going to end up with a glut, because that often happens when there's a shortage. They just don't know how to moderate it.
I mean, that's something obviously in the future we'll see, what's happening, and that's a lot of people coming to Australia, isn't it?
But it's being reduced. Next year I think it's going to be just over 200,000. So but we're maintaining the same production schedule.
The thing with housing too, years ago, and I know this happened in my family, you had generations living in the same house. And that doesn't happen anymore. A lot of people want their own space, and rightly so. But that's also affected the housing market as well, And of course, separations and breaking one family households. Into two. So there's a lot of demand, absolutely. And of course that pushes rents up as well, demand.
So I guess just to think about the impact of the changes on investment properties. So there's the negative gearing, which, to be honest with you, there's not many scenarios that I think negative gearing is a good thing. But the capital gains tax, cutting the concession, I think that's probably a little bit problematic.
That's problematic. It's a pity about that, but again, we don't know the final outcome.
That's true.
I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to stay positive. Because,
you think it's not going to get through?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of opposition, isn't there? So I don't want to say 100%. There's 30% will come in, but you don't know. I strongly think you have to look at the structure that you have your properties. And move it around if you can. I know discretionary trusts are the ones that they're targeting at the moment. But, maybe looking at, moving to a company tax or self-managed super fund. I don't know. I can't give financial advice.
But the trouble is, every time you move a property around, you've got to pay tax stamp duty.
Absolutely. That's true too. That's true too. And these are the things that you need to look at. And make sure that you put in a structure that's right for you and your family. But again, governments change. So what we have now may not be the same in 2 or 3 years when the governments change. And by what you're hearing, and what you're seeing in the media, that's a big possibility. We could be sitting under another government in 3 years' time.
I'm not going to say anything there because I'll get myself into trouble.
You can't. That's the thing, you know. Sometimes you've got to keep your opinion to yourself.
Yeah. Which is something I'm not very good at. So
must be the name.
Must be. It's that good Catholic girl. We've got to tell the
I am
truth.
a good Catholic girl through and through. Yeah.
So yes, discretionary trusts out the door. At the moment, they may not be out the door. There may be someone there to
Let's wait and see.
block the.
Well, yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
I think for renovators, the opportunity is a strategy we call micro-development.
Okay.
So you're talking about duplexes.
Yep.
That's a knockdown rebuild, but micro-development is when you buy a house on a big enough block that you can subdivide something off.
Mm-hmm.
So you renovate the house and ultimately sell it, whether it's before you build or after.
Yep.
But so you're doing well if you sell the house for what you paid for, given that you've taken the land off. So your sort of capital gain is sort of minimal.
Yep.
So, you know, your aim is for that transaction to be neutral, and then you build one or two new properties on the vacant land in which and you can sell them, you can rent them out, whatever. But the beauty of that is they're brand new, so they're exempt from they've got the CGT, the old system.
Yep.
And also you can technically negatively gear them, but because that strategy is so positive, the likelihood of needing to negative gear is low. So that's a really good strategy, and particularly for someone wanting to build a portfolio. So basically you're getting your land for free. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, there's a strategy.
There is a strategy.
Yeah,
yes.
it's a good one.
Yeah. And so we won't know for sure whether the budget is
100%.
set in stone.
Set in stone,
for a little while.
Yeah. I know they're pushing it through the lower house right now. And what I read, you know, again in the media, is they're trying to push it through before they have their winter break. Now, who knows if that's going to happen or not? We don't know. Just wait and see.
And so Bernadette, you did touch on how you're finding the market at the moment.
The market's soft at the moment. I am seeing a lot of signboards come down, which is disappointing.
Okay.
But it's all about the uncertainty, and that's what it is. As I said, in COVID, we had this. It was very interesting times in COVID. We still sold and bought property. And at the time, we could only take one person through a property at a time, and all those restrictions we had. And it was a very interesting time. But the market came back. We went up 30%. And everyone said it was going to go down, which it didn't. We've come back a bit now to what we were, but that can change again. You know, the market's very resilient, especially in Sydney.
Yeah.
You know, look where we live. You know, I'm lucky that I live near the beaches, but, you know, living around where you are, you're so close to everywhere. You know, we're very, very lucky.
And the reality is that people still need homes.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not buying homes because they don't need them. So it's just takes a while for them to think, well, you know what, I've got to get on with it. And
got to get on with it. It is what it is right now. People will always need to sell for whatever reason, like we said, for family reasons. And there's always going to be a property market. There's always going to be people transacting. Yeah. And there are people transacting right now.
There are, yeah. And I've noticed, actually, I've seen some devastatingly low results, but I've also seen some really strong results.
There has. And again, it comes down to your property. You know, well-presented properties will always sell really well, especially in great positions. Yeah. Where we are right now in Surrey Hills, this is amazing. You know, in a city, it's just fantastic. Yeah. For, you know, trams and location and, you know, parks, it's absolutely fantastic. And they're the sort of things people are looking for, lifestyle. So while you are looking at the property and what you can do with it, you're looking at the lifestyle around you as well, accessibility as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything you want to add?
No.
If anyone's selling a property,
we can always add that.
How do they get in touch with you?
Well, on your, or you can always give me a call, or my website, easternbeachesproperty.com. I think actually, now that you've touched on that, before even thinking about selling, there's a whole lot of things you can think about before then. So the process is get an appraisal. in this market because we have changed. So something that was 2 million could now be 1.8, 1.7, and that's going to make a very big difference as to what you're looking at to buy.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you know upfront what your property is worth. Appraisals are free. I'm happy to come out and talk to you or give me a call, and we can talk about it. But it's important that you know where you're starting from, your starting point. The other way to do it is to go onto, one of the property portals and look at the recent sales.
Yeah.
And how does your property compare to that? And every property is different, views, renovations. But that's a good place to start. We also have a little booklet that we can send out as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, thinking of selling. It's tips for what you can do before you even talk to a real estate agent. Things
Amazing.
Around getting your property ready, all those sorts of things. Getting someone close to you, honestly, to go through your property and have a look at the little things that you can fix before buyers come through. Because buyers are always looking for discounts.
Yeah. That is such a good idea. When I first started flipping, I used to have an interior designer come through because I thought I was pretty good at I had a bit of a flair for it.
Yeah.
And she was willing to tell me when something sucked, which was really good because your friends don't.
No.
They tell you everything looks lovely when it doesn't. And I think the flip side of that is you need to be open to taking that contribution.
Yeah, a lot of people, and I always say to my sellers, don't shoot the messenger, because quite often buyers will tell me things that they haven't thought of. Before I launch a property, I'll walk around the property with the owner and I'll say, you need to declutter, get rid of all the personal photos, but also, can we move this or can we change that? And I think that's so important because buyers will look, the downpipe's not secured to the wall or even just little things, skirting boards. Just fix them. They're really costly, minimal things that could cost you big time in the long run. So they're the sort of things
because they tell a story, don't they?
They tell a story about how the property is being looked at. The other thing that's important is how your property presents from the street. The bins, they tidily put away. Is the bushes being cut back? Mow the lawn. I know they sound pretty obvious, but when you're getting ready, these are the things that we forget. And that is so important because I tell you what, first impressions are everything.
They are, yeah.
And if someone drives past your house and goes, oh, that hasn't been painted in 30 years or something, which may be, depending on your circumstances, deceased estate, different. But these are the things you need to think about.
You pay dearly for that.
You pay dearly for them because people will move on. It's like Tinder, swiping. If your photographs aren't right, people will just swipe to the next property. So it's unbelievable to, make that comparison, but that's what happens. Swiping.
Yeah, I agree. And evidence of pets. Like I love my dog, pets, but you don't want any kitty litter tray, get rid of it.
Yeah, it smells. And also if you're a smoker, that it can put people off as well. And I know these things seem trivial, but they're not. They really are. And I mean, once you're living in the property, you're not a smoker, that smell's going to go. But these are things that can put people on. They'll walk in, they'll walk out.
I would not buy a property that smelled of cigarette smoke if I was going to live in it.
Yeah,
no.
there you go.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so they're the things that some buyers can look past. Another thing I had just recently, I was selling a home and the seller pushed back on doing a floor plan, didn't want a floor plan. And I think that's just number one. People go away, they have their brochures and they look at the floor plan, how they can change it, renovate it. I mean, you can't just go without a floor plan.
Absolutely
and
not.
A signboard is another thing. It's 24/7 out the front of your property. So there's lots of buyers. We have passive buyers and active buyers. And the passive buyers are the ones that walk past your property, don't know it's for sale, and all of a sudden they see a signboard and go, oh, my son, daughter, relative, friend is looking for a property in this area. Signboards are really important.
Yeah.
Just basic things, yeah, but things you don't normally think about.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've attended to the topic. So, so you will find, if you're interested in talking to Bernadette, you'll find her details in the show notes. And thank you.
Thank you for having me, Bernadette.
You are very welcome.
It's very strange talking to yourself.
I know, it is. It is.
This is the She Renovates podcast. To discover how to harness the power of renovating, check out theschoolofrenovating.com.